originating, and mostly fueled by the huge level of the economic crash that we're going to endure. Sort of makes sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so our view is that there's this planetary populist movement that will arise that probably on its own may be hijacked, like a lot of revolutions get hijacked back into the control of the elite. I don't know. We don't have any sure certain knowledge about it, but we do see that there are certain trends that are developing now. Now, the good part of it is that our data is quite clear that when we get to the end of the transformational year in the United States, which is 2009, and we're this time next year then, we will have success stories we'll be able to talk about relative to local populations that are doing well within the U.S. in spite of the fact that there's a general overall massive depression and deflation following hyperinflation within the United States. And these communities that will be doing well are those that are going to go back to, or going to go to a situation that we're calling Boggs life. And that stands for beyond ordinary or organized government systems. And so these are local communities that will just say, okay, well, to hell with it. We're not going to wait for the federal or even the state government. We're just going to go on out and fix this thing, whatever it is. Now, a lot of these people are going to run in afoul of federal laws. For instance, they're going to see that there's a hole in a dam and there's no funding, and so they might get a sack of cement and go fix it. But that would be illegal because they're monkeying about with, that'd be illegal on so many levels we needn't even bother. The feds could come up with dozens of different laws that violated. Now, the issue for us all is that in the early part of the year, there may be some energy in the federal government to pursue those kinds of, quote, crimes and hassle such individuals, and we'll see those in the daily press because they're going to really tout them so as to try and scare other people from not fixing their local dam. And but by the end of the year, it looks like a lot of the will within the federal government to go after people for that kind of stuff will just have evaporated. And we'll be looking at like the last few years of the Soviet Union relative to our federal government. It'll keep contracting and centering in on itself, trying to maintain smaller and smaller and smaller groups of power around which it can really effectively threaten the populace. And that comes back to the idea of repairing your own dam or fixing your own road. If you do that, you're in essence taking power away from the federal government. And they don't like the competition. But, as I say, by the end of 2009, that will be a waning concern for most people, and we'll see dozens and dozens and dozens of, quote, criminal activities every single day as people start seizing their local environment and taking it into their own hands and taking care of it.
You know, that's interesting because last Monday there was a raid on a food co-op in Ohio.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about, isn't it?
That is, indeed. That's one of the things where they're saying, okay, you guys are criminal, but this time next year, they won't care that much. It'll be less of a concern because they'll have to worry about getting electricity to and from their own people, let alone trying to supply large portions of the populace.
Well, besides a lot of other, I consider great news in your reports, and that is the populace getting their strength back, building some muscle.
Yeah.
But also that apparently a lot of things that you foresee happening are going to be very widely distributed in video and press. So that means that in 2009 we can still keep going, and the other one is that we'll have so many people to interview.
Oh yeah, you guys got to be, you're going to just be in a catbird seat here because of the collapse of the economy is going to bring out so many whistleblowers. You know, you have a whole cadre of people that, especially in places like NASA and JPL and a few of these other key areas of federal research and development, especially those things that are space-focused, where you've got lots of people that are only kept silent by a delicate balance of being paid and being fearful. And once they're no longer paid, well, that fear is only going to keep them silent so long, and once they can't feed their families because of the crash of the economy and so on, you're going to get a lot of people out there saying, hey, look at what I know. I'm going to write a book about it, and I'll tell you everything that I went through in, whatever federal agency where I used to do illegal acts. So it's going to be a boom time for you guys.
Yeah.
And it ought to just be fascinating for the rest of us to finally hear people that come on out and say, yes, I was there, I was airbrushing space aliens out of the photos, or whatever, And a lot of this, I think, will come on out. We'll probably see people say, yes, the first transistor was reverse engineered off of this crash on such and such a day, and we'll get some detail and start being able to put together a real history of humans. As a data junkie, as an information junkie here, somebody who likes just knowing things, I think that's the highest crime. You can screw with the dollar and make me a beggar, but when you screw with real knowledge about who I am and the past history of my species, that really starts getting me upset. And that's the kind of stuff where I want to introduce you to this particular stick I keep in the backyard and say, okay, now we've got to, get this settled so that we can get the as close to the truth out of it as possible. Our species is just suffering ignorance and amnesia that it need not. A lot of it is simply suppression of knowledge.
Well, you also mentioned that there is going to be a greater demand for that kind of knowledge.
We're seeing it now on YouTube. If you go and look at the spread of the YouTube videos from its inception a few years back and start seeing which ones go viral, you now see that those that are going viral have this, what we call around here, questing nature. And that is to say, those people that are questing around knowledge, even if necessarily they don't know, but they're asking the right questions, like, why don't we know? Who has this knowledge? Why didn't they tell us this about the, Cydonia or whatever? You're seeing more and more of those take the top several hundred spots in YouTube that are not promoted. There's some monkeying around going on in YouTube and the numbers and some machinations there as well for advertising purposes. But in the main, we're finding that the, quote, alternative, or the truth movement, or the true nature of human movement, whatever you want to call it, is really starting to come out on its own. And I don't think it's stoppable at this stage. Our data seems to suggest that alone is going to cause the powers that be all kinds of issues as we get into late winter, early spring of next year. And that's just about the time that we get a lot of these whistleblowers that are laid off, and they start coming out and saying, yeah, they laid me off, and oh, by the way, I took with me the last 5 years' worth of airbrushed photos I've got with all the real spaceships in them, and here, let's put together a book.
We definitely are in exciting times.
Yes.
Yes.
And, my gosh, your data goes far into the future, amazingly, so we've got lots to talk about, and
lots of positive
coming
coming out.
Yeah.
With this, we can join that populace that is going to change in the frequency of the whole thing.
It's going to be really cool. I can't wait to get into some of this, yeah.
Oh, super. Thank you, Clif.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening.